Everybody, as promised at the top of this show, I am joined by Kevin McGuffey, the last word on college football. He does bowl stuff for us. He also does Kentucky football, all kind of good stuff over at last word on college football. And Kevin, we talked the preseason. I'm glad to have you on the show. We can talk Kentucky football and just the SEC overall.
Well, cool. Thank you, Phillip. It's great to be on again. I will say, if 2-3 weeks ago we had talked, I'd probably be in a whole lot better mood than I am right now. But that's part of it. That's football, and Kentucky got off to that great start, 6-0, first time since the '70s or since 1950 actually, and then now it's kind of fallen on some hard times these last 3 weeks, but. They still they have three winnable games. I think they could finish 9-3 and still get to a good bowl game. So, but we got to use the coach speak, one game at a time. Starts on Saturday. So
you know, and the thing is with them, obviously I'm from Alabama, so I'm just kind of speaking this from a distance. But it feels like they start 6-0, you lose 3 games in a row. A lot of programs at this point will be hitting a panic button. Like a fan base will be going crazy. But it feels like in Kentucky, there's a part. I'm not going to say the whole fan base this way. Maybe be still okay. Look, we're really good. We're good. We're a lot better than we used to be. There's no panic. But what's the temperature right now with Kentucky fans with the football side of things, starting 6-0, and then now you've lost the 3 games in a row?
Well, I don't think it's panic button. I think for a lot of people in Kentucky's fan base, it's basketball starts. Basketball season starts. Because they Champions Classic and all this stuff, and so that's where some of the fan, it's like, okay, well, I'm out. I'm going to football or going to basketball now. But there's most of the people, I think, and Coach Stoops said, look, we have a great chance, to have a great season. How many times has Kentucky won 9 games in football in the season? It's probably less than, you think about, 2018, 1984, 1977. That's like, and maybe 1950, the Bear Bryant years, it's probably less than 10 if you go back and look through history. So, the hardcore fans are still here. And, yes, the last three games have been quite awful. But as I said, and as you said, they've still got a really good chance. Any other year, Kentucky finishing 9-3 and going to a really good, possible New Year's Bowl game. I mean, people would be, building statues and hanging banners and all that stuff. But it's weird, and I think it's where Stoops has gotten this program. You think about from where he started, how bad. The first couple years under Joker Phillips were okay, but that last year, they just tanked, and didn't have a lot of really good players, and he's constantly built the program up. Now they're kind of at that, not want to say a plateau, but where you're expecting 7, 8, 9 wins every year, and I said I think they have a good chance of doing it. I think a lot of the fan base is still all in. Like I said, you have the outliers who decide to move on to basketball, but I think people still realize there's a chance for a really special season here.
Yeah, and I think, and I talked to you and other people when going into the season, I thought there was a good chance Kentucky could finish second in the East, and obviously, that's sure to happen there. And because okay, Florida's not as good as I thought they would be, but I thought Kentucky had a chance to be good, really good. And then I thought the Missouri game early on was going to be key. Look, wrong on Missouri this year. I mean, they are not as good as I thought they would be. I mean, I didn't think they was going to be a contender in the division, obviously. But I thought that Kentucky-Missouri game could be dictator for third and then potentially second place, depending on what happened with Florida. But you look at the last 3 games. Of course, the Georgia game, I'm not even going to put that one in this conversation because Georgia's just above everybody else, I believe. I mean, they're just a step above really not just in the SEC, but really the country. I mean, we have so many vulnerable teams, and I think they still have some vulnerabilities, and we'll talk about the SEC as a whole a little bit. But just that game there, just not throw it out, but you can't really compare it with the other ones, I think. But the last 2 weeks, Mississippi State and Tennessee, we're used to seeing Kentucky play. I think SEC fans, a Stoops-led team, play really good defense. And I know they're still highly ranked in the SEC, 6th in total yards, 5th in points allowed. But these last couple of weeks, just watching, kind of going back, watching some of these games, these Mississippi State, Tennessee, there's a lot of holes in that secondary. And sometimes it seems like maybe Kentucky's disinterested in trying to tackle somebody because there's a lot of missed tackles there too. And so, I mean, I'll give you the floor here. What's going on with this Kentucky defense from what you've seen since you watch this team up close every single week?
I think you made some really good points. I think a lot of it starts up front. The Cats are down 3 guys. They're down 2 of their starting, 3 off defensive linemen. Marquand McCall is out. They hope to have him back. He's the big guy, 340-pounder in the middle. They hope to have him back this past week, but it didn't happen. And then they lost Octavius Oxendine, who's a Kentucky kid who's had been playing really, really well. He's out for the season with a leg injury. And then Saturday night, Justin Rogers, who's the backup to McCall, went out in like the second series of the game. I think that's where it's starting. As a Kentucky, if you watch, they're getting no rush, no push on the quarterback at all. You still have Josh Paschal, but you have the offensive lines can key on him because they're not as concerned about the other guys up front. And like I said, obviously every school, every team has to deal with injuries. And then you think about Jordan Wright, one of their best linebackers, was out on Saturday. And but yeah, the last 2, as you said, you can kind of throw out the Georgia game. Honestly, I thought Kentucky really played pretty well against Georgia, to this point in the season. It's the closest anybody, I think, has been to them. And just, like I said, it's just been really weird. Like I said, yeah, it's like they don't want to tackle. They don't want to. I wish, obviously the coaching staff wish they could put their fingers on it. I wish I could put my finger on it. I think, Kentucky is not that deep. They're not that deep on the offense, on the defensive line. They're not that deep in the secondary. Some of the guys they have had good years in the past. It's just everybody's struggling right now, and you go through those, games, you go through those slumps and things like that. But, you have like Yusuf Corker, who's been just a really, really good player for the Cats for like 3 years now. And then, Tyrell Ajian, Carrington Valentine's a younger guy who had been playing well. It's just, Stoops used the phrase after the Mississippi game, like total systems failure. And that's basically what it was. And I think a lot of it, as far as Mississippi State, I think Mike Leach was a little more, had a little more, what's the word I'm looking for? A little more interest in winning that game and trying to win, maybe not big, but because, basically Kentucky kind of embarrassed Mississippi State last year. The season ago, it was the first time ever that a Mike Leach team had not scored an offensive point in the ball game. Mississippi State got their 2 points on a safety where Kentucky managed to snap it over the punter's head from the 40-yard line and went all the way in the end zone. And they got a safety out of it. It's just really weird, and it's unlike Brad White, who's done such a great job here with the defense. And literally, you hate to use this phrase, but it's like they forgot how to play football. It's like they're either trying to make big hits instead of like trying to tackle, just wrap them up and tackle them, or they're trying to make the big plays on the interceptions, or they've just had breakdowns in schemes. You think about the game on Saturday, Tennessee scored 14 points in like 3 plays. First play of the game, 75-yard touchdown. And then the second play of the game, or the second series, it was a 72-yard touchdown where you had confusion and you had one of our linebackers, DeAndre Square, trying to cover, one of those fast wide receivers. And we all know how that turned out. Now, in the second half, they did play, a lot better, I thought, if compared to the first half. But it's just, I don't know. It's just, sometimes, I played football going back, to high school. We would have weeks where basically we just went back to practicing fundamentals. This is how you tackle. This is how you wrap up. This is how you, do this, do that. I mean, I'm not saying they need to go back, but yeah, maybe they need a little class in fundamentals, because the last 3 weeks has just been, the last 2 weeks especially has not been good. But on the positive note, they do have, the schedule, let's face it, playing in the SEC is, as you well know, is difficult as it is. But you think about, the month of October, they started with Florida, had LSU, then Georgia, then a bye week. They had Mississippi State on the road and then Tennessee at home. And man, let's face it, Tennessee had a little motivation too because Kentucky went down there and embarrassed them last year. And and let's face it, Tennessee, I will say it was a whole lot better than I thought. I think Josh Heupel is a great coach, and I think he.
Yeah.
And I said, in the beginning, he's going to do great things at Tennessee. I thought it would take a couple of years, but Cat fans we were all excited. We thought this is going to be the first time since the 1970s that Kentucky to beat Tennessee in back-to-back years, and it turned out to be, anything but. It was another heartbreaker, against Tennessee, and you can go back through the last 30 years and probably like 10 games where Kentucky's had the lead in the fourth quarter and second half and ended up losing, or like in this case, trying to get that last second win. I'm not going to talk about the calls that were missed. Everybody's seen it, the face mask, and then that wasn't called, and then calling Stoops for unsportsmanlike conduct, and then somehow Kentucky converts at 4th and 24. But then, my biggest thing on that last drive, they had a couple timeouts, they had some time. They had been doing some good things running the ball. I think you should have taken a shot with Chris Rodriguez, somewhere, let him see if he can roll off 10 or 15 yards because, college football, the clock's going to stop on a first down. I thought that was a big missed opportunity that they could have tried, because if they were so keen on the pass that I think you could have tried to sneak a running play in there and maybe gained enough yards to get in, field goal range to tie it up.
Yeah, that kind of leads me to the offense. And, I kind of want to break this up into two little categories here, the positives. I mean, look at who are the best players in the conference this year. You look at rushing. Chris Rodriguez is second in the SEC with 918 yards. And I honestly, I've said this all year, he's one of the more underrated, underappreciated players in college football. I don't think he gets talked about enough, what he does, the kind of player he is for Kentucky. And then you got at receiver, Wan'Dale Robinson. You got a receiver that is second in the SEC in receiving yards. I mean, before this year, before Liam Cohen come in, if you told a Kentucky fan they'd have the second leading receiver in the SEC, I mean, I'm just coming again from the outside point of view, they probably look at you like you were crazy. But,
right.
On the positive side, the offense, obviously you see it. It is better this year than it has been, more dynamic. Just what's been the positives for you with Liam Cohen, what he's done in year one here at Kentucky on offense?
Well, I think a lot of it is what Cohen promised when he got here, a more pro-style offense, what you see. Now, I guess you could throw last night's game out with the Rams because that was, that was kind of a disaster for them. But, he promised a more pro-style, throw the ball, try to get the receivers involved, and, and still get Rodriguez in. But I think if you look, before the Tennessee game, against Georgia, Levis threw like 44 times or something. That's not, I think they've kind of gotten away from Kentucky football a little bit, need to get back to what brought them to the dance, so to speak. But yeah, I mean, you talk about Rodriguez, even, he'd struggled for a couple games. He's still the second leading rusher. And then, Wan'Dale Robinson has been everything that Kentucky fans hope for and more. He, when he transferred to Nebraska, they hoped that he would be that guy, give you that home run threat anytime he catches the ball. And that's what he's done. He had, I think it was 13 catches for 166 yards, this past Saturday. And, he's been, he's just been, like I said, everything that Kentucky fans thought he would be and more. So, those are the positives. I think the negatives, for being honest, I think Kentucky's, and they've had some injuries. I think, the offensive line has really struggled. Going up against Georgia is one thing, because as you said, they're on, Georgia's up here and everybody else is down, down here. You expect to not maybe do so well against Georgia, but then, Mississippi State, I know they're good against the run, but you still think Kentucky should be able to run. Basically, think Kentucky should be able to run the ball against anybody. And, there's been, giving up a lot of sacks the last couple of games. It's just been an overall team, just kind of a team. What's the word? Just been, not let's say focused, but just, they just haven't looked like themselves, for whatever reason. But to your point, yeah, Rodriguez has been great. And honestly, Levis I think has exceeded expectations for the most part. He's had the turnover problems, and he did have the one bad pass that, unfortunately, I think one of us, I might not be able to run it in for the touchdown, but he had locked. You could tell he locked on the receiver as soon as he dropped back, and a good cornerback is gonna play up, catch up on that, and then take it. Maybe not take it to the house, but like I said, Levis has done a really good job, and I think he's getting better from when you watch those first couple games to now, especially like the LSU game. He had it's like national national player of the week, and so like I said, overall, I think it's been really good. It's been more excitement, for as much success as Kentucky had under Eddie Gran with people kind of got tired of the 3 yards in the cloud of dust kind of thing. So and he has opened up the offense, and it's definitely been a better, it's been more exciting to watch. That's for sure.
Yeah, and I had it circled here with the interceptions. He's thrown 10 on the year, which is tied for most in the SEC with Emory Jones, who's obviously splitting time with Anthony Richardson over there at Florida. Uh, I think at least the last 2 weeks, the interceptions probably was a lot more costly against Mississippi State. He had a few more in that one than he did against Tennessee. Did well. I mean, like you said, I mean, they came back. I mean, they were down double digits to Tennessee, gave herself a chance to win it there at the end. And something you said on Heupel, I will agree with you there. I was not look. I probably looked as a Tennessee hater for if anybody that's been paying attention to me long enough. Yeah, I'm with you there with what he's done at Tennessee. But with Will Levis, still, I mean, he has been. I've been impressed with him despite the interceptions. Now, offensively, something we were going to talk about too is a transfer commit that Kentucky has coming in. Of course, Wandale Robinson was one they got off last season, and Taj Harris. I mean, and I was just kind of looking down some of his stuff. He will enroll in January. He's got 2 years remaining eligibility. He did receive offers from other SEC teams: Auburn, Ole Miss, and Mississippi State. 37 games, over 2,000 yards, 10 touchdowns, all ACC third team in 2020. So Kentucky's going to be able to use more of that passing game in the next couple of years with him now on the roster coming up.
Yeah, that was the one good thing that came out of Saturday, because we all up here in Lexington we got, and it was honestly what he for I think he played the first 3 games for Syracuse, and then put his name in the portal. And as soon as he did, Kentucky was a name that came up, because I think he and Cohen had a relationship going back to high school days. So that was a guy that said, okay, Kentucky might be the place where he ends up. He took a visit to Ole Miss, but then, as I said, we got up Saturday morning, and it was like he posted a tweet and said, I found my home, I've committed to University of Kentucky. So, excuse me, and I said, it's going to be big for next year, because they lose Josh Ali, who's Kentucky's second leading receiver, who'd missed a few games because of injury. He was one of those super seniors. Took advantage of the extra year, and let's face it, there's a good chance that Robinson will at least explore the NFL draft after the season. Now, whether he decides to keep his name in, depending on what kind of feedback he gets. So Kentucky could be looking at trying to replace their top 2 receivers for 2022. And like I said, Harris is a guy who seems like he could step right in. I said you read off some of his stats. He was the leading. I think his yards and touchdowns, or yards and receptions, he ranks in the top 10 in the history, Syracuse football. So yeah, he's a big get for the Cats, and I look for them to maybe try to get a couple more, maybe hit the transfer portal hard in the off season. Obviously, maybe might look at some secondary help. So, but Harris was a big get for the Cats, and everybody's looking really forward next year to see what he can do.
Yeah, just it's kind of like just a change, like a switch has been hit with Kentucky. So now it's a place for passing game. That's going to be going to, and just, how was this overall? Kind of, I don't know if this is put on your spot or not. Just recruiting wise, that position. We just saw with him coming in, Taj Harris is coming in. You had Wandale Robinson. Just guys are bringing out of high school. What is that looking like? From what you've seen with Kentucky, just from a recruiting standpoint of bringing in highly touted or really talented high school receivers too as well.
Yeah, they've got I've got to go look up my list here, but they've got they got a kid that they got from, actually I think it's from Alabama last year, who Christian Lewis, I believe. they're really, really, really high on him. Like I said, DeKale Crowdis, who's a local player from here at Frederick Douglass. Like I said, if you look next year, and they just picked up the one I was forgetting, Dane Key, who's the number one player in the state of Kentucky by 247 Sports. He's a wide receiver from Frederick Douglass High School here in Lexington. They've got kind of got a pipeline going. They had Jack Burton and now Dane Key. And then they've got another player for next year. He's another guy who's going to do big. They're going to expect really, really big things out of. And then another player you can to watch out for is the Wade twins, Destin Wade. He's a 4-star player out of Tennessee. He and his brother Keaton. Wade played quarterback in high school. He's out of Tennessee, just outside of Nashville. A lot of people think reminds people of Randall Cobb, who you think about a decade ago here at Kentucky. He played quarterback, he played running back, he played wide receiver. He was that guy kind of like all over the field. And he's the guy they think can come in next year and do something, and he and Key both, they think they can both come in right and play right away. So that, that's two guys that they have coming in. One of the big things has been over the last, like this year, is trying to find another receiver besides Ali and Robinson. So you have, like I said, I would expect Kentucky to hit the transfer portal. Chris Lewis from Pleasant Grove, Alabama. That's the guy I was thinking of. He was in last year's class. He's a guy they're going to really expect big things from in the future. So like I said, they have a lot of talent. They're just inexperienced. So the passing game could take a step back next year. You think with Levis coming, with another year of experience, he's going to go up. He just got to find those guys to throw the ball to. And obviously the big key is going to be Robinson. If Robinson decides to come back for his senior year, then Kentucky's going to be in really, really good shape next year.
Looking at the rest of this away, they play at Vanderbilt. You got New Mexico State on the schedule, and you got at Louisville. These three teams combined are 7-20 on the season so far. And Vandy's been bad. They've been bad in New Mexico State. Like I said, and in Louisville, 4-5 right now, not having a great year for them. So you look at that, and on paper, I think it's fair to say, okay, 9-3. You're looking at 9-3, potential 10 if you win the bowl game. But that's something you keep a good attention to over at Last Word with the bowl situation. You got an article coming out here soon on the latest update on that. Where are you thinking at? Kentucky goes 9-3. Where are you thinking that is going to be a good spot for them in the bowls?
I said the one that's coming out tomorrow, I've got Kentucky in the Citrus Bowl playing Michigan. So I think a 9-win Kentucky team. Now Kentucky was there in 2018, beat Penn State. I guess it'd be 2019, New Year's 2019. But yeah, so I've got Kentucky playing Michigan there. I think the Citrus or the Outback Bowl is probably the ceiling now. Obviously the New Year's Six Bowl. Up until even this past week, a lot of people, myself included, had Kentucky playing either in the Peach Bowl or possibly even the Fiesta Bowl, but that's obviously out the window now. But I going back to what we said at the beginning, Kentucky team goes 9-3, goes to the Citrus Bowl, the Outback Bowl. I mean, that should be cause for excitement. And it's just kind of weird that people, going, finishing 9-3, seems a little disappointing because of what could have been, because this really easily could have been a 10-2, 11-1 squad this year, but it didn't quite work out. But that's part of it. Like I said, I've got them in the Citrus Bowl now, just for saying. I've got Auburn in the Outback Bowl this week, playing Wisconsin. And I even made the
I'm sorry to cut you off. I'm sorry to cut you off there, but that's a good bowl, and that's for Brian Harsin year one. On paper, that's good. I'm just going to tell you, if Auburn plays Wisconsin in another bowl game, there's going to be a portion of the Auburn fan base that's going to want to jump out of a building. I'm just saying.
Yeah, I thought about that, because I think I might have had Auburn and Iowa before, but then it's kind of basing on how the teams have been playing, and so like I said, and as I put the disclaimer every week at the bottom, I said this is just for this week. They will change, from week to week. So that's why you have to keep up, or keep tabs on it. I did think about that afterwards. It's like, yeah, because it seems like Auburn and Wisconsin play each other like every other year or something. But so that'll be something. Like I said, I'll remember this and I'll take that into consideration for next week. So
Hold up. This is great podcasting, and for the video audience, you're seeing me look over the side. I am looking up the history between these two programs.
well, I was getting ready to look it up, but anyway.
Let's see. Wisconsin has it on there. Let's see. They played in 2015. The thing about it, I just saw it. They've only played 4 times altogether. Okay. In 1931,
they probably all been in the Outback Bowl, right?
Well, 1931, it was a classic tie, 7-7. No one was there to witness it. 2003, they played in Nashville in the Music City Bowl. That was year Auburn was supposed to be really good, but they weren't. They were ranked 6th to start that year. Auburn won that one 28-14. Then they play in 2006. Wisconsin wins 24-10, and they play in 14, and Wisconsin wins 34-31. So they have not played as much as Auburn fans would act like they do. So maybe won't be too bad.
All right. Well, there you go. Yeah, 21. Yeah, there you go. 20. You're right. I looked up that. I have to say, for my writing, I don't know. There's a Winsipedia page that like you can compare any 2 teams, and I use it. I have it bookmarked as like I use it religiously when I'm writing things, because I always like when I do game previews. I always like to look at the series history. But yeah, there it is. You said Outback Bowl, Wisconsin, 34-31. So, but they haven't played since 2015, so it has been 7 years. But I'm with you though. It does seem like, or maybe they're always projected to play against each other, and it never seems to work out or something. But anyway, that's what I have this week. And as I said, as the disclaimer says, it will change. It will change next week. So I think at one point I had, you guys, as your season has gotten better and, progressively better, I think, it may have been like the Music City Bowl at one point. And I think I had you guys in the Mayo Bowl a couple of weeks. And then like I said, I think last week, even, after the Ole Miss game, I, bumped you guys up. And then, I didn't change, losing to Texas A&M on the road is no, you shouldn't really get, it's a loss, but you shouldn't get like dropped down a whole bunch of games just because of that. But anyway, it's just something. Jason Ray, who works, is one of the editors or whatever you want to call it at Last Word. I guess he started doing like bowl projections a few years ago, and then he decided he didn't want to do it anymore. Now he does the Heisman balloting that we all take part in and vote in. And so I always thought it was something that was really fun, like, how do you do this? Or how do you, and I just said, hey, I'd like to give it a shot. And they were like, sure. It's like, hey, it's more content, So,
there you go.
Like I said, I have fun with it, and I don't claim to be. I will say, like 2 years ago, I had a better percentage than the final predictions than some big name bowl prognosticators whose names I won't mention. But then I got humbled last year when like nothing I predicted worked out. So
well, last year had to be hard with COVID, because you had so many teams that you thought were going to go to a bowl game and backed out, didn't play, and stuff like that. I remember during bowl season last year, I kept looking on my phone about, what's that Twitter account, FB schedules or something like that. I was waiting for the alert every single day that somebody was not going to be able to play in a bowl game. So yeah, last year, I think anybody, can give you a mulligan on last year, just because so many teams. That's just the whole complicated thing of last season.
Right. But my big thing now, and I've seen other people that have done this, I don't have Alabama in the playoff. So I'm just saying,
you know where I'm from, right? So a good chunk of my audience is going
to I know. That's fine. You can send all the hate mail. That's fine. No, I don't have Alabama. I have Alabama in the Sugar Bowl playing Oklahoma State. I've got Georgia at 1, and I have Oklahoma, Ohio State, and Oregon. That's my 4 for this week. So, um, like I said, I don't think Cincinnati's going to make it. You know, you can say what you want. Should they be in there? Should they not? They've had the chance, the last 3 weeks to impress the committee, and they've, basically,
Haven't done it.
they've won, but they've, like a 3-6 Tulsa team, they had to have a goal line stand on 4th down to, the guy fumbled, to win the game. So I don't think Cincinnati, it would be a great story, just like a few years ago with Central Florida, when Central Florida, could have made it. But I don't think it's going to happen. Now I'll say that, and then they'll get in. But we still have 4 weeks, 3 weeks to go, plus the the championship week. So, but anyway, and I even said, now I'm not just sucking up because I'm talking to the Auburn guy, but I said don't be surprised if Auburn gives Alabama a really good game and maybe even pulls the upset, because I've learned from talking to you and watching your stuff over the years. It's a home game, and home Bo Nix is really, really good, as opposed to road Bo Nix. So I'm like, it's at Auburn. Who knows? If they play like they did against LSU, Auburn's definitely got a chance of winning that game.
Look, and at Jordan-Hare, things just happen against Nick Saban. It's just, if you look at his history, other than the Cam back 2010 with Cam Newton, Alabama has blown Auburn out in Tuscaloosa. But when the game's at Jordan-Hare, maybe there's one blowout in there somewhere. I mean, Malzahn had 3 wins against them at home. I mean, you could say they were, especially 2 of the 3 were crazy wins, but still, it's in Jordan-Hare, and this kind of can jump us off. We were going to talk a little bit of the SEC as a whole as we close things out. I mean, we mentioned it earlier. Georgia is at the top of this conference, and they look to be the favorite. But I've been telling people this. If they play Alabama in the SEC championship game, now none of the Georgia players, most of them haven't experienced this. But we've seen Kirby Smart have chances to beat Nick Saban, and he's blown it. He's led probably 98% of those 2 of those games, the SEC championship game and the national championship game, and he's blown it. So my thing is to tell people, yes, Georgia's great. And on paper, in the way the teams have played this year, they are better than Alabama. But what gives Alabama a shot in that game is Nick Saban roaming the sidelines. That's what gives them the opportunity there. And I'm just saying, if something could happen, it'd be interesting. It's going to be interesting with that situation with them two. But Georgia, they are the top dog right now.
Right, and the point that I was going to make about the playoff is that I'm assuming Alabama, even if Alabama wins out, I still think Georgia beats them by 10. I just think they're a better team. I think Georgia wins, and Alabama would have no 2-loss team has ever made the playoff since they started the playoff. So so you have that, and then you have, but it's Alabama, kind of thing. So, and I was as shocked. I know you guys did the great show last week about the rankings, and I mean, I'm sure you guys were as shocked as I was to see Alabama at number 2 when those first rankings came out. I was just like, what?
Yeah. So for people watching on video right now, you're about to get entertaining video. My computer is about to die. I have to go run and get the cord. So y'all are going to see me disappear for a second, and Kevin is going to be here looking at y'all, and he can just take over the broadcast while I run to get the power cord.
Which the funny part is that's what I had to do before we got started. Anyways,
yeah. So your host is about to disappear for a split second.
Okay, that's fine. I can filibuster. People say I like to hear myself talk anyway. So no, like I said, I think, like I said, no 2-loss team has made the playoff. I think Auburn, Alabama at 11-2. If a 2-loss team's ever going to do it, it's going to be Alabama. But like I said, my top 4 right now, I have I've got Georgia, Oklahoma, Ohio State, and Oregon, because I don't think Oregon's going to lose. Plus, Oregon has that win over Ohio State, so we'll see. We'll see what happens. And like I said, I'm excited to just have a bowl season. Knock on wood. Have a bowl season like we've had, like we're used to, with all the games. Last year was just so, so awful with all the games getting canceled and everything. And I think it's going to be, like I said, I think the SEC will be interesting. I think, like right now, I think I have everybody in the SEC playing in the bowl except for Vandy and I can't remember the other team right now. Vandy and Missouri, I think, are the only two teams like in this week that I didn't have to go into a bowl. So, like I said, I had Auburn in the Outback Bowl. I brought South Carolina back this week. They basically replaced Missouri because I think South Carolina can get to 6 wins. So I have them. I think they're playing in the Birmingham Bowl or something like that. So, but anyway, so yeah, I just tried to talk about bowl games and how the SEC. I talked about the playoff a little bit more.
So you're saying I won't have to edit that out for the audio edition because the video is not getting edited.
Yeah, so. No, I think we'll be okay. I made the comment. I just kept talking because, as I said, some people think I like to just hear myself talk anyway. So,
yeah, that's always good audio. So we had the Kevin McGuffey show for a moment there. So there you go. He got
the viewership went. Sure, not just kidding. It's like, yeah, my goal in life is I don't want to be that. Oh gosh, it's that guy again. So, But anyway, so we went off the rails here. But that's always, to me, that makes the most fun shows.
Well, I didn't want this one, because I know we're kind of getting close to the end here anyways. I did not want this one to have to end like the first time we did a video show. When back then I did not have we talked about this off air, but this is for behind the scenes for the audience out there. A lot of people don't know this, but when I first started doing video, I was using my iPad. My iPad was on 25% when we got going that night. I said, we won't go long enough for this thing's going to, go on me. And it did. So the last 5 to 10 minutes of that podcast, there was no video to close it out with. We did it over the phone. Mm-hmm. So I remember that because I had to come on with a disclaimer for the podcast audience. Why the audio quality had dipped a hair when we went to our phone. But yeah, so just as we kind of look at the, as I said, overall, just closing out the SEC, do you just have any thoughts, with Georgia, Alabama? I mean, obviously the East, we know that thing is locked up, but the West is very interesting because we talked about this off the air before we got going. Alabama's sitting at the top right now. And as I said, right now for A&M, they need to win out and probably hope Auburn beats Alabama in Iron Bowl. But as bad as Auburn looked, as bad as it was Saturday losing to A&M, Auburn's not out of it because if A&M there's not a guarantee A&M beats Ole Miss this Saturday.
Right.
And then if Auburn could beat Alabama and Alabama's vulnerable, Auburn could still get to Atlanta. Now, 3-loss SEC team is not get to the playoff, but it's still there for Auburn and just a bunch of other teams in the SEC West to get in there. It's just not a foregone conclusion that Alabama's going to be representing the West.
No, you're absolutely right. And like I said, you did that post for Last Word talking about, that very thing, how Auburn could get to the, could get to Atlanta. And like I said, that's the fun of college football. We've got 3 more weeks left. And as we've seen, anything can happen. And as you said, Tennessee, I have Tennessee. Where did I get Tennessee from? Anyway,
they're in your head.
They are literally. It's like a worm. But anyway, I mean, like I said, Auburn. There's a chance. Like I said, if Alabama loses, say Alabama loses to Auburn, and A&M wins, and A&M gets to go to Atlanta. So there's a lot. Like I said, as you and I said earlier, it's Georgia here, and everybody else. I just don't see anybody beating Georgia, as you said, unless they beat themselves, which is, as you said, it has happened a couple of times now when they played Alabama. So, anything can happen, any given Sunday or any given Saturday, I guess. And like I said, that's the fun of college football, to see, we get to sit back and watch it every week and, root for our favorite teams, but then also see what happens, with the rest of the country. So it's always exciting.
Yeah, it is. And it's going to be interesting this week. Got some interesting matches. Like I mentioned, Ole Miss, A&M, they're playing. Kind of looking at it real quick, just kind of skimming it, and I'll close it out because we are about to hit the 40-minute mark on our conversation, which 2 minutes of it was the Kevin McGuffey show. So we got that put in there here today. So we can tell everybody last word that was a debut here on the Phillip Jordan podcast, the Kevin McGuffey show. So just to run it through real quick for people, and I'll do this later in the week in my picks, but Auburn, Mississippi State, which could be interesting. Mississippi State, you don't know what you're going to get week to week.
Right.
Alabama's playing New Mexico State, so they can kind of get some stuff figured out for their last 2 games. Sanford and Florida, that's Florida deal is a whole another podcast.
Really.
Would that be another 40 minutes? Georgia and Tennessee, that's a CBS game. Gary and Brad going to find something to talk about the second half on that one. South Carolina and Missouri, that could be intriguing. That could be a good game. Texas A&M, Ole Miss, talk about that. I mean, I'm just going to say Kentucky should blow out Vanderbilt. I mean, Vanderbilt's not good. Your look on your face, you're like saying, well, we'll see. We'll see. That's what your look is telling.
Yeah, it's, the long-standing Kentucky fan, you never take anything. We've learned to never take anything for granted. Now, it is on the road to Nashville, but I would be, a sucker bet. I think Kentucky will have twice as many fans in the stands down there as Vandy will, because everybody just drives down I-65 and, invades Nashville. But no, I think I'd just be happy with 17, basically as long as we have more than they, I'll be happy. So
then you close it and then you got Arkansas LSU. So just kind of wrap this up, Kevin, me and you, just any final thoughts?
No, just like I said, thanks again for having me on. I really appreciate it. It's always great to come on and talk with you. Like I said, as you said, people don't, half the time you and I spend countless more time talking off camera than we do when we're doing this. It's just, it's a lot of fun. You do a great job with this, and it's always fun to come on and talk to you.
Well, I appreciate it, Kevin. I'm sure we'll talk some more because, this is a year-round deal for me. Football season never ends for me. It's always going. So when the season's over, I got draft. I got the, calls, spring. You got recruiting. You got all kinds of stuff. I think July, it's about June, is about the 1 month where football cannot be. You can say, okay, I can take that month off. But other than that, yeah. We'll talk probably before the season's out, hopefully, and then after the season and off season stuff. It's always good to have you on. For the listeners and viewers out there, where can they check out all your stuff?
Well, last word on college football, or if you on Twitter, the cleverly titled @Kevin McGuffey. Because I went through, I tell the story when I first signed up for Twitter, I went through 10 different names, things and every one of them said it was taken. And so then I would try to do something with 18, because I work, my full disclosure, my real job, I work at a TV station here in Lexington, Channel 18, the NBC station, WLEX. And so anyway, I just said, forget it. I'll just go @Kevin McGuffey and just be done with it. So, but that's where you can find me on Twitter. Instagram, Crime Dog 18. That's McGruff the Crime Dog. I'm going way back. For anybody that remembers those commercials, that was my nickname in college. I was McGruff the Crime Dog. Okay, whatever. So anyway, it just kind of stuck with me. But yeah, @Kevin McGuffey on Twitter. That's where you can find me. So.
All right, sounds good, Kevin. I do appreciate the time, and I look forward to talking to you some down the road.
Sounds good. Now that I've dropped McGruff the Crime Dog, I think it's time to wrap it up.
There we go.